Alright, welcome to the channel, everybody. My name's Wyo, and I will be the humble host of this little adventure. This 2020 Harley-Davidson Sport Glide was my bike until last week. It was Father's Day, and my wife just said, "I want your bike. Go ahead and take that one." And all kinds of questions started rolling through my head. Why that one? I started going through months and months of motor vlogging content that I had watched time and time again from all of my favorite YouTubers. And just kept asking myself, am I ready to go this big? So let's start this story from the beginning. I grew up in Florida, and much like some of your favorite moto vloggers down in Florida, I had a very nobody needs a windscreen, nobody needs a fairing attitude. If you're a real biker, the sun and the wind should beat your face so badly that when you craft your own furniture out of wood, you can use your face to sand it all down. Save money. Life's good. And then I fell in love with this little young lady down here in Wyoming. Moved on out here, and I'm gonna tell you what, it might as well be a completely different planet. You know, we used to complain every October, November about, man, the hurricanes are coming, I'm gonna have to go hit the liquor store and supply up, and then go hit the hardware store, get a little bit of plywood, maybe a candle or two while I'm there, so we can throw some hurricane parties. But hurricane parties aren't a thing here. Hurricane force winds are like every Tuesday. Temperatures are ridiculous. Like right now, we're a week away from July, and it's 58 degrees right now. So I started thinking to myself, man, this Sport Glide just ain't gonna cut it. I grew up in a little town called Ocala where we used to just, you know what, I want to ride to Gainesville and go party it up, or Orlando, or Tampa, or Daytona. You know, there was nothing more than an hour and a half ride away, and you were already at where you wanted to be. But out here in the Midwest, it's 45 minutes to the closest rink-dink town to just stop for some gas and stretch your legs if you so feel like doing that. And then you're like, where do I go now? Because the next nearest town is 2.5, 3 hours away. So as I'm pondering all these ideas of maybe I'm just gonna get myself a bigger bike, or maybe I'm just gonna go do the stylish thing, get myself an FXRT fairing and, you know, do all this jazz to it, I started pinching some pennies and rubbing together some numbers to see what it would really add up to after all the body work and paint. And I just started thinking to myself, man, that's just too close to the price of a full-size bagger. Maybe I should start looking into some of those. I never rode one before. I mean, you can't really tell it unless you look in that mirror right there, but I'm kind of a dyna bro. I'm really only doing a full face helmet right now because how am I gonna do a microphone and a GoPro? Just super glue those to my face or something? So right about this time, I'm got all this rolling through my head. All my favorite YouTubers started taking a look at all these full-size baggers. The Street Glide, the Road Glide, the Challenger. And I'm like, man, these guys got less experience on a bike than I do. Some of them are smaller, shorter, lower weight, less strength. Like, why am I intimidated by a full-size bagger? I mean, I know it's a lot harder to pop wheelies on them and stuff, but you know, that's what they created stage 3s for. So I started watching these videos and I just say, screw it. I'm gonna run down to my local Harley dealer. I'm gonna jump on a Street Glide, right? Because out here in Wyoming and the rest of the Midwest, you just see Street Glides everywhere. There's absolutely nowhere you can go on a good motorcycle day and not see a couple Street Glides. So I jump on one, take it for a few miles, bring it on back, and they decide to offer me the deal of a lifetime just because they got a huge shipment coming in and they haven't moved as many bikes as they wanted to that week. And I'm like, no, you know what? I really got to see the full gambit. I'm gonna ride some other bikes when I got some spare time. And that was just me kind of trying to jump completely out of the Street Glide, because the Street Glide is like all right here in your face. I was feeling all claustrophobic and I could just tell that it wasn't my cup of tea. So a little more time goes by and Marvel Kid 87 jumps out with his Road Glide special review and test ride. And I just really loved the paint job on the bike that he was riding. And he just seemed to be having absolutely the time of his life. So I'm like, all right, next day off, I'm gonna go find me a Road Glide special and see what that business is all about. In 5 or 6 minutes before I had even, thought about turning back around to the dealer, I was already sitting there like, man, this is the bike. This is perfect. I got all these cubbies everywhere that they didn't have on the Street Glide, or at least they were a lot smaller. I like the layout of where the infotainment is versus all the gauges. I like the fact that the fairing is fixed. This just all feels great. I'm in love with this bike. So I dropped the deposit, $1,000, said, I want this bike. I want it blacked out. I want black hardware all the way. Get me this bike. And they're like, okay, well, we have two options. If you don't want the RDRS, we can order it up for you, and it'll take probably 6 to 9 weeks. If you want to pony up the other $900, take one with RDRS. We got one coming off of a truck already in about 5-6 weeks. I'm like, oh, well, that sounds attractive. All right, let's go ahead and do that. Problem was, I'm really a Chrome guy myself, but I was thinking of starting up a YouTube motovlogging channel. This whole moment of new ending, new beginning as I transition from the world of Dynas and Softails to a full-size bagger moment. Why not pick the bike that everybody else is gonna think is super fantabulous? So in the meantime, I start seeing some other awesome videos about this Challenger and how great it is, and it does 0 to 60 as fast as you can crush a pebble with a full-size crusher. So I'm like, all right, let's do this. We got a demo day going in FOCO anyway. Oh, sorry, that's Fort Collins for those of you that are not round about the Colorado and Wyoming area. So I went and did a demo ride on that bike. And as long as I was going 20 miles an hour or faster, man, that was just a dream bringer. It moved, it felt smooth. It pushed all the buttons that I wanted it to push as long as I was moving at a decent speed. But I really didn't like the way that the rake and trail caused it to maneuver when I was trying to do my lower speed parking lot junk. And I thought, well, maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm not used to the throttle and friction zone on Indian motorcycles. Never rode one before. So next trip, let me jump on a Scout or maybe one of those new Chiefs. And of course they had one of the Chief Dark Horse bobbers available on the next run, so I jumped on that. And I noticed that all these 50 and 60-year-old guys that were born on the back of a motorcycle, never owned a cage in all their lives, were having the same exact problems. There was none of this smooth braking, low speed, front staying nice and smooth, perfect. The bike isn't shaking or wobbling. Everything's just perfect, that I'm used to seeing experienced riders do on street glides and road glides. And that was it for me. I walked away from that demo day absolutely in love with the new Chief Bobber Dark Horse. That was a crazy ride. But the Challenger's just not for me. I'm not gonna drop 30 grand on a motorcycle that's gonna be an everyday ride for me and hate the way that it does low speed maneuvers. So I came up with this little idea, this little challenge of, well, I can get the bike that I want from Harley out the door, everything rolling, for $32,500. And every dealer in the Midwest has got the Challenger jacked up through the roof. Not even dealer fees, tax, nothing considered in the price, for $31,900. So if I was to go with either one today, these would be my numbers. Can I get the suspension, the engine performance, and all the electronic thingamajiggers and LED lighting all the way around on a Road Glide special for the same price as I would have paid to get all those things on an Indian Challenger the very same day? So I sit around and I wait. I'm dead set. I'm going with the Road Glide special. That's it. Blacked out painting, body, and hardware. It's all gonna be black. And then comes around Father's Day. We decide that we're gonna go into Cheyenne, the capital of Wyoming, and, you know, get some motorcycle clothing and apparel. You know, do something nice for me on Father's Day. Yes, I do own a couple things that don't say Harley on them. It's mostly underwear and socks, but I own a few things. And we walk in the door, and there it sits. They just rolled it in off the truck a day or two prior. Two-tone, chromed all out, Hazard ERS, just absolutely everything I could possibly want in a bike. But I got black on black all ordered out. And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna walk away from this. I'm not gonna sweat it. It's gonna be fine. And all of a sudden I start hearing his voice in my head. And I know this is gonna sound creepy, but whatever, I'm gonna say it anyway. If any of you are familiar with the Swamp Wizard, also known as Shade Tree Surgeon, his voice started whispering in my head. Okay, who are we kidding? Shade Tree Surgeon has never whispered in his entire life. It's screaming in my head. What is wrong with you, boy? If you are gonna walk away from absolutely 100% the bike that you want because you think that blacked out bike might get you some more clicks on YouTube, then you're nothing better than a freaking sellout, and you shouldn't be motovlogging anyway because your content's probably gonna suck. And I'm laughing in my head that, are you serious right now? Like, this is where I go mentally when I'm trying to decide between a few things. I'm imagining the voices of people that I've never met, even though they're riding and video recording motovlogs in all these different bars and restaurants and riding down all the same streets that I grew up on. I've never met these guys, and they're speaking to me in my head like I'm crazy, telling me to make the right decision. So I did. I was gonna trade this in, and my wife looked at me like no human being has ever looked at another human being before. And just straight up, she's like, if you want to drop those dollars on that bike, we ain't trading nothing in, because that Sport Glide is mine. So here I am doing one last little ride on a bike that I loved very much. Yes, it's still gonna sit in my driveway, but I'm not gonna be riding it no more. So I'm just saying goodbye. Thanks for the good old times. It was a beautiful 18 months of riding. As I start this motovlogging channel, and move on to the next chapter in my riding career. But man, this thing sure feels small after riding a full-sizer. Alright. So, in this channel, we're going to focus on just about every kind of bike that we can get our hands on. We're going to work on some upgrades to the new bike. I already spent 3.5 hours one way and 3.5 hours back in the pouring rain to go get the first upgrade from a dealership in Colorado Springs, Colorado. The only dealer in the entire Midwest that had the part I wanted. And then we're going to introduce the No Name. And at the end of my video, before we go anywhere else with this world, I am challenging Shade Tree Surgeon to name the bike that he convinced me in my head to get instead of selling out.